Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just start off by welcoming Bronte Howson on my right, who is the Managing Director of Automotive Holdings Group, and of course you know Paul sitting next to me. Today is a very significant day for the Melbourne Football Club. We've started a journey over the last few months to build the sustainability and the respect of this football club, and today is really the beginning of that journey for the next year. It's the first day when the whole squad's back, and that's exciting, and a new coaching panel in place to take the guys forward. We've undergone a hell of a lot of change, and today we can announce that Automotive Holdings Group, or AHG, of which Bronte's Managing Director, will join the club as our major sponsor, both front and back of jumper, and will do so for at least the next 3 years. The significance of AHG is that they are a major, or AHG is a major ASX 200 company, which means clearly it's a listed public company in the top 200 of the stock exchange. That's very substantial in terms of the Melbourne Football Club, and we're delighted that a company of their stature and brand would join the Melbourne Football Club. They're the largest automotive retailing company in Australia, with over 5,700 employees and 152 car and truck dealerships across Australia. It's a great sign of support by AHG that they would come and support the Melbourne Football Club and believe in the journey that we are going forward. So on that note, I'd just like to thank you, Bronte and AHG, for putting your faith in the Melbourne Football Club, and ask you to say a few words to the guys about the company.
Yeah, thanks very much, Peter, and welcome all. It's pretty exciting times for the Automotive Holdings Group. This is our first major sponsorship in the AFL. We've certainly supported clubs in the past, but we could see that an opportunity opened up with the jumper, and we could see also the culture of Melbourne with Paul coming on board. We had met with Peter, Jackson and George, and when we looked through opportunities for a company where we could invest our money to get value, and particularly in the online market, we looked at the Melbourne Football Club and believed in the journey that has been presented to us, and we're certainly very excited to be a part of Melbourne's future. AHG, as Peter said, we're a company that was established back in 1952, so one of the older automotive groups. We now are represented in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and also in Western Australia, and obviously the two big footy states in Western Australia and Victoria. We see that there's going to be substantial value back to our group, and we're very excited at this stage. Automotive Holdings is a company that we like winning, and we believe that with the group that the Melbourne Football Club has put together, the re-establishment of their coaching staff, the off-field, and certainly I go back a few years ago with Glenn Bartlett, the president. We're very excited in where we'll be with the club into the future, and certainly look forward to being involved at all levels. So thanks very much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Bronte. It's fantastic for this football club, as I said, to have a company of your stature involved. We've got some male models over here who are going to bring out the new gear, so come over, fellas. Feeling very comfortable about their roles, especially the bloke at the front.
Yeah, mate, thank you.
No, we'll give the jump at the end.
So guys, we'll just open up the questions now, specifically on the sponsorship, and any football questions as well.
Peter, you mentioned this is the start of something. How much more does the club need to do to get back on track financially, I guess?
Oh, I think going forward, I mean, this year's been, 2013's been pretty awful. We know about that financially, but we've got all that under control. The club is on a sound footing, and this relationship just cements us going forward. We'll be back in the black, in my view, in 2014. This appointment of AHG's on top of some other recent sponsorship appointments. We've got the Northern Territory on board with shorts and playing games, a couple of games up there. That's a good financial deal for us. We've got New Age Caravans come on as the coach's sponsor, and we've got the other sponsors in place from the previous years. So I think we've got a good base going forward, something this club certainly didn't have at the beginning of last year. But I think what's really appealing about this arrangement is the nature of the company that's come on board. You know, an ASX 200 company with the Melbourne Football Club, those sort of brands, if you look back, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, we value anyone that is in partnership with the club, but to get a company of AHG's stature involved with us, we know we can look forward for 3 years and with stability and long-term tenure.
If that's the case, is this one of the most substantial sponsorships?
Oh, no, it's not. Well, it's substantial for Melbourne Football Club. I mean, Melbourne Football Club is where it is. It's not going to be as substantial as some of the bigger clubs get. We know where we are in the competition, but it's substantial for us in terms of stability and long-term tenure and what we can do, and we're very grateful for that.
Peter said today that it's possible the AFL are going to release all financial details of the clubs and the funding. Do you have any issues with that, with the AFL making your dealings with them public? Oh,
no, not at all. Andrew Demetrio put that on the record on Brownlow Medal Day with the rest of the clubs. I'm happy to say it. We got $1.45 million in 2013, and that was $1 million grant and $450,000 matched dollar for dollar for any fundraising we did, which we managed to do. But that all went into 2013 to restructure the club. We haven't got any change out of that. That all went in paying out contracts and undertaking a management restructure. The reality is we haven't got anything from them for 2014. It was a one-off grant, and we're back on our own again for 2014 under the normal. I mean, we get support from AFL like all clubs do, but we're back on our own for 2014.
Bruce, your first day having these guys squad back, excited?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been really pleased with the way the guys have come back, the younger boys. But it's always good to have the full squad. It's a bit harder when you split them, but it's great to have all the players back. And I think they're pretty excited. Most of them have been floating around a little bit too, which has shown their commitment to the club. So they didn't have to be here, but a lot of the boys have been in and doing training and weights and running around. So, yeah, certainly, look, it's a great start for us to have a new sponsor on day one. And as Peter said, a great sponsor. And I've been on the website about 50 times trying to, work out which car. It's got that many dealerships, and look, it's fantastic for us as a footy club, and hopefully
you and the Porsche or the Bentley?
Well, I'm just still negotiating that part of it, but yeah, for fans' point of view, to get on one website and to hunt up the car, and I'm sure the players and our supporters and sponsors will be jumping on and having a look at what they're gonna get. So, but to have a new sponsor on day one, and I said that to the players, I mean, for me, it's about relationships and. As a footy club, one person can't do it, whether it be Peter when he was appointed or myself. I mean, this is a collective thing trying to get back up the ladder, and we need valued sponsors to be able to do that as well. I mean, it's a huge day for me as a coach to walk in, see the guys in new outfits, meet the new sponsors, the crew that's come across. So it's a pretty significant day for me, absolutely.
Well, as you say, it's the sort of key is the on-field success, revitalisation of the teams. Did you think you'd have a big role in the off-field success as well, as Bronte's pointed out to you? Has it been key, that you come on board and the leadership at the club?
So,
did you think you'd have such a big role in the off-field success of the club as well? Bronte just pointed out, your leadership was one of the keys to them coming on board with things.
I really didn't think too much about that, to be honest. I mean, I think the main thing for me was making the decision primarily for myself and family, and then, hoping that things would follow. And we had a really good draft period where we got some players. And again, I think the message to these boys that have been here for a while, there was certainly no reluctance, and Bronte can speak to this for himself, but we didn't speak to a player that didn't want to come to the Melbourne Footy Club. We didn't speak to a coach that didn't want to come to the Melbourne Football Club. So certainly the perception, I think, through the football industry has changed, which is really important. I think it's important for these guys. I mean, all 5 of them have been here a fair while now and have had limited success. So, yeah, perception's one thing. Obviously, we need to do the work now, but I think from my point of view, since I made the decision and spoke to coaches and players and obviously from a corporate point of view, I think Peter's had some success and the club's had some success. But I think that's the start, and that's the point I was trying to make today. I mean, it's great to be able to walk into a footy club, in day one of your pre-season and have a lot of things that are sorted out. But that's only, the start of it. We've got a lot of work to do to get up the ladder and to be a competitive footy team from where we were.
Paul, is it disappointing that you don't have a senior assistant to work with from day one?
Sorry?
Is it disappointing that you don't have a senior assistant to work with?
Yes and no. I mean, it was something we talked about, but it was never going to be probably the absolute priority. The priority was to get the coaching staff, and if that involved the senior assistant, well and good. If it didn't, fine. The next priority was to get players to help out these boys, which I think we did that. Obviously, the club point of view with sponsors and so forth. No, look, I mean, we've got plenty of time to do that, and I think what we found through the process is it's interesting even when you looked at Alan. I mean, coaches are really reluctant, Richo, reluctant to put their names up now because if they get knocked back, a couple of times, they seem to be a bit scarred. So I think, Danny Frawley touched on it a bit too, just the industry as a whole in trying to appoint coaches is obviously, a little bit of a difficult stage, so we probably found that as well. But certainly, we'll look at doing that over the next 12 months and going into next season. But
so is it too late now, theoretically, to get a relatively senior candidate on board in that senior role? I mean, you have to sort of close it off.
Yeah, we won't do it now, Rowan. No, I mean, that's done and probably done a month or so ago, and we'd refocused on other things. And as I said, it was never going to be something that was going to be urgent. It was more trying to get the right fit for the club and for the players. So we're just excited to get started and have all these other good things happen to the club, and that'll take place at the end of next season.
Does that mean you extend your tenure by a year or two just to sort of keep that?
Well, it depends if I can get the Bentley or the Porsche.
Exactly.
Rosie, when do you expect the decision to be made on captaincy?
We'll start our process probably tomorrow in terms of what we want to do with leading teams, and then we're going to head on the camp and we'll just try and set some standards. So look, there's no urgency with that at all. I would suspect probably going into February of next year and give the players a chance to set their standards and then vote on their leadership group. And so there's a real process that goes through, and they'll be explained that in probably greater detail tomorrow.
With your current assistants, Paul, is there any chance that those guys might actually go into becoming your successor?
I think that's one of the possibilities of not having someone now, because as we know, it's a difficult decision to pick a senior coach. So, I don't even ask them, to be honest, but obviously someone, there's a chance over the next 12 months someone could definitely bob up. I mean, as with John Longmire in Sydney, and obviously Bucks was a little bit different at Collingwood, but certainly that's a possibility. There's no question about that, and then we can reassess it at the end of next year.
We talked a bit about some guys you picked up from other clubs, but Mitch is one of the guys standing there. You must be as pleased to have him up and running as any of those new guys.
Yeah, I think I said before, I think the players were a bit the same as me. I mean, to see him on day one when he trotted out with his boots on, I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was a bit lost, actually. So it was good to see him involved in the skills session. And I know he gives everyone a boost around the club. I mean, he's such a dominant figure, both with size and personality. But to have him out training, and probably our biggest challenge now is to pull him back a little bit and make sure he doesn't do too much. But certainly to have him out there, and obviously some of the senior players coming back today, and it gives everyone a lift, certainly.
Well, just back on that senior assistant role, how long do you think you need to have them under you before they can assume the reins?
Well, it depends who it is, where they come from, and I mean the main thing is that the players get some consistency. I think that's my priority. It's got to be someone that has the same values and standards and sort of similar game plan. I mean, they'll tweak a little bit, but I think just some consistency. So it's a bit hard to answer the question until we sort of know who that person's going to be. It'll depend on who it is, really.
At the draft this week, so you got a player in from last year in the mini draft. What are your early impressions of Jesse Hogan?
Look, I've been told a lot of good things about him. I obviously seen him play live, but certainly, to have a guy of his stature that's been involved in the footy club for 12 months and been playing the VFL, he played particularly well. I think he gets a jump on the draft picks from this year because he knows some of the standards. He's been through the footy club, but talking to Jesse last week, I mean, he wants to earn his spot in the side, and I think that's what we need to. That's what he needs to do, not just because he's a super talented kid and, potentially, where would he been this year? Pick 1, pick 2, that's what I'm hearing. But, I mean, I think, that's irrelevant for us as a footy club. He needs to earn his position. I'm sure he will. He's a hard trainer. He works hard. He's got the respect of the players. So hopefully he's there round 1 next year. But if he is, it'll be because he's trained really well and he's played well through the pre-season. And he just hasn't relied on that sort of natural talent that he obviously does have.
What about Paul, your early instances of the talent of the club? Has it met your expectations?
Well, it's probably, early days, you're just observing. I mean, us as coaches are looking at standards and obviously building relationships and building trust with the players. Certainly the training standards have been good. I've been really pleased. The players are really keen. They're really eager to learn. They train hard. So, look, for us up until Christmas, it's really observing those standards and making sure they're really high and the expectations of the leaders of the group and pushing the young players. But at this stage, I can't complain. I mean, the first 9 days of the younger guys coming has been really positive.
Anyone that's particularly impressed you coming back in good shape, any of the guys that you've seen this morning?
I mean, there's a long way to go. I've seen a lot of guys come back in good shape and then have terrible seasons. So ask me round 1 and I'll tell you who I'm impressed with after the game against St Kilda. That's probably more relevant for me. But I think one of the things that we said to the players today, most players train pretty hard when they come to the club. I think the great clubs have great standards away from the footy club. And I think that's what these guys, as leaders have got to drive at this football club. I don't know, I'm not saying they're poor, but I mean, obviously good footy clubs have good standards on and off the field and at the club and away from the club. And, but at the moment, I mean, I've been really pleased with most of the boys coming back and how they've presented themselves. Thanks, guys.
Can we just give the jumper to Bronte? You give it to him.
Yeah, mate. Thanks,
Good.